The season's upon us, it's that time of year. Brandy and eggnog, there's plenty of cheer. There's lights on the trees and there's wreaths to be hung. There's mischief and mayhem and songs to be sung. There's bells and there's holly, the kids are gung-ho.
Oh, how beautiful. What a great way to start Rad Pod and Chill. So I am so thrilled to see you guys. Welcome everybody to the Rad Pod Chill Christmas holiday edition. We're going to be recapping our beautiful interview with Rich Logis, who, wow, who really spelled out his journey into the cult of Maga and how he got out. And I'm so incredibly grateful to him. What do you guys got to say about that?
Dude kicks ass.
Yeah,
He's
I
just-
mean,
Yeah.
we need, you know, maybe about 100 million of that guy, and
Yeah.
we'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. You know what though?
Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, just if for people who haven't seen it, Rich got pulled into MAGA through kind of an interesting route through the kind of third party, little bit of a nihilist, didn't give a fuck kind of a guy, and just got pulled straight down the MAGA rabbit hole, and came out the other side like, oh wait. So DeSantis is. It was interesting his moment, if not to give away the plot.
Go for it.
When he said DeSantis was intentionally exposing children to a deadly virus unnecessarily, even if it was a small chance, as a new father, it affected him very deeply. And it was a moral line for him, and it sent him down a whole different course. It was a little bit of a sort of a special case because he just had a kid, right? He was kind of entertaining some doubts here and there anyway, and then there was like a double whammy, and the guy's like, wait a second, you're endangering children for politics. And that was it kind of snapped, and then it was a year after that before he really kind of was able to talk about it. But it's very, very impressive dude, and I really appreciated talking to him. And we, like I said, we just need, that is the guy that we need out there as much as possible, just saying, listen, this whole thing is not real, and it's not a death sentence. It's okay. Come on, you can do it. Come on.
Yeah. Well, yes. And what was so beautiful is it was Ron DeSantis who first, he was listening at night to like thoughts in his head where he was, allowing himself to sort of explore the doubts that he was having. This is a 2-time Trump voter. And when Ron DeSantis made it very clear that he was not going to protect children during COVID and that kids died, and then, of course, he had friends in the MAGA movement who died, it was the statement of one friend of his saying, well, DeSantis is protecting people from the jab. And all of a sudden, the anti-science reality of that really hit home. But it was also summer 2021 when he decided he was going to begin the process of peeling off his blinders, and he was going to start taking a closer look at January 6th. No, it wasn't just a bad day. It was coordinated. The militias were coordinated. There was QAnon, there was the Oath Keepers, there was the Proud Boys, and who was backing them and who was approving of their actions? As he said, the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States. And so there were 2 hard lines that he could not cross. One, that they were approving of politically motivated violence, and B, they were approving of politically motivated deaths of children. And as Hi-Fi said, whoever, hardwired him initially, there was a firewall in his brain that he was not going to cross. And wow, the heaven and hell that he describes, the year of heaven and hell, where he felt relief once he addressed not being a part of MAGA, but he also went around starting to make amends. And one of the most beautiful moments for me was the friend who told him, I knew you'd be back. And I sent that interview today to a friend of mine who is full MAGA, somebody I'd met on the campaign who worked very hard for my Democratic candidate, even though he's full MAGA. And he keeps in touch with me, and I think that he's having those doubts. So it is my hope that he'll listen to that. And if those doubts are actually sprouting, that there might be something that he will hear. And Rich Logis at Perfect Our Union on Twitter and perfectourunion.us, who's forming Leaving MAGA, he invites anybody to reach out to him who's having those doubts if they want to talk to him. And I think he'd be a great resource. He's definitely somebody who wants to do good. So we're going to play some clips from him tonight, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what happened in Colorado. I'm excited that, that there just feels to be, along with all of the things that you report, Jim, which are gnarly and awful and scary, and I can't believe that you have to do the job of media because they're just not willing to look at this stuff. Along with all of that stuff that you report, there are also things that are hopeful and beautiful. I would say our interview with Rich is probably one of those things. And I would say Trump being denied the ballot in Colorado and forcing the Supreme Court's hand. So go ahead, jump in, guys.
This week broke Rudy Giuliani.
Oh,
The man is broken.
Mm-hmm.
He filed bankruptcy. He's got a $148 million bill, well deserved, I might add.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps running his mouth.
Go ahead, Jim.
It turns out he owes $500 million.
Yeah, right. Well, which would explain
$500 million.
Which would explain all of his desperation and his willing to sell out America for Putin. You owe that kind of money, you'll do anything. He's been a national security risk for years.
It's not just money. Yeah, that dude has committed an enormous amount of crimes. Enormous amount of crimes. It's absolutely incredible that he and the New York FBI and the NYPD protected each other for fucking decades.
Right.
Charles McGonigal and Rudy Giuliani were like best friends. Charles McGonigal, Russian spy, convicted Russian spy. Rudy Giuliani was all up in 2016 and all the election bullshit that went on there, and he was Sidney Powell's, smeary mini-me the entire fucking time, right? The dude is a criminal. He's an organized Russian, organized criminal, and it's just astonishing that we let this dusty old fascist fucking walk around for decades on end doing the same shit over and over.
What's interesting about that too, there's a lot to talk about. I'm glad you brought up Rudy because we have not been mentioning him for a minute, but it's important. Do you remember all of the attack dogs from the right about women who got paid to do speeches? Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton, whatever. Rudy Giuliani was getting paid millions of dollars to give speeches as some sort of cybersecurity expert, LOL. And when I did the deep dive, on him for the American Monster series, I found out that he had been a myth the whole time. There was never America's mayor. He was loathed. He was a dictator looking for a balcony, as one source reported. And it was a lot of myth making. And I just think it's really important that there are no opportunities for this narrative of truth that is now encircling him to not rise to the top, and that there's no more myths about Rudy Giuliani. He has been a malignant actor for quite some time. And again, when you look at the people in Trump's orbit, look at who they are. They're felons, like criminals. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I've exhausted the synonyms.
Hold on. I need to point out, we have talked multiple times about mice, right? Money, ideology, compromise, and ego. We know Rudy was, all 500 million in debt. Yeah. Ideology, he's an authoritarian. Compromise, I do believe it was Roger Stone Jr. himself who said Rudy likes, what was it, booze and pussy a little too much. Yeah. I believe that was Roger Stone.
That was a direct quote from A Storm Foretold. Yeah, that was in the film.
So there's compromise and ego. The guy loves being on camera.
He's a narcissist.
He loves it.
He's a malignant narcissist. Let me tell my Rudy story real quick, just because it'll piss off Mike Flynn. So Rudy Giuliani and Mike Flynn were going to celebrate the anniversary of 9/11 in 2022 by speaking at the Petroleum Club in Texas. I shit you not. And for the low price of $911, you could go see Rudy Giuliani, Bernie Carrick, Mike Flynn, and like a minor parade of horribles after that. And I grew uncomfortable with this arrangement, and there was a venue involved, and I may or may not have encouraged some phone calls, and that event did not happen.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
I have all the advertisements for it, and I have the video from the guy who was putting it on, who had the biggest conniption fit I've ever seen a fascist have, and that is saying something. And so, Neener.
I just have to say, I have not heard.
We've had a good time, haven't we, Jim?
Yes, we have.
Occasionally, very occasionally. We have to celebrate our little victories.
Yes, we do. But I just want to conniption fit. You just put that back in the lexicon. I have not heard that since, I don't know, middle school or something, like conniption fit. We need to break. I don't know. Nobody. I haven't heard it. I'm thrilled.
I don't even know what the fuck it means. I just know it means something about,
It's fabulous. So do you guys know what Rudy Giuliani and Jared Kushner have in common? It's pretty good.
They're both corrupt assholes. I don't know.
Both their fathers did time in Sing Sing. Cheers.
Ooh.
Cheers.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought you guys would appreciate that.
Jared's father, man. I mean, talk about a fucking psycho, man. I mean, do people know remember the story about this guy? You wonder how this like sociopathic robot, right, came out just fucking walking into the fucking bonesaw regime like, I want $2 billion.
Stop it.
I'll shut down, and it's just crazy. And then they just pay him off at the end. There's like, here's $2 billion. Here you go. Like, and then they publicize the fact that he was unqualified for it, and all the partners in the venture firm were like, "The fuck are you doing?" I was like, "No, do it. We owe it to him. Do it." I mean, it was that blatant, and they're worried. And sorry, but they're worried about Hunter's paying back his truck car payment to his dad.
I know. That's exactly where I was going with it. They are winning the narrative war when somebody who's always on Hunter Biden watch doesn't know who Jared Kushner is. You can't say, what about Kushner's 2 billion in that argument? Because it's like, who's that? So we have a long way to go to turn this ship around, as Zarina Zabriskie was writing live from Kherson, which is being destroyed as I speak. The whole world is we're having her back as soon as possible. They've got a new film they're doing, and I think the trailer is already ready, so we'll be previewing that as soon as possible and bringing Zarina back.
You want to talk about metal, man?
She's amazing. I love her so much.
She is in the war zone. Oof.
Yeah, I love her so much.
Every hour, she's just like, oh, the building shook again, and there's,
yeah, it's
Bombing
important.
kids.
It's important to note, though, what she wrote, which I think is something that we're going to be talking a lot about in the new year. The whole world is undergoing active measures right now. This is not just America's fight, Ukraine's fight, even the people of Russia who've been psyops since, Putin came in. It is a global fight, and we're going to have to come together to fight it like we used to. And in America, we used to come together to fight the good fight, and strange allies formed. And that is the beautiful thing about leaving Maga, our interview, as Jim so eloquently expressed. We have to extend grace to people who stand up and say, I was wrong. And I'd love for you to start showing some of the clips. I know there's a couple longer ones. I hope you also cut the couple shorter ones, because they're all fucking important.
Oh, I cut them off. You want to watch?
Oh, you're the best. You're the best. High five. Yes, please.
With the Russian interference, I'll tell you essentially how MAGA views that. MAGA looked at the Russian interference and said, well, all candidates seek out foreign assistance. What's the big deal? Everybody does. You don't think Mitt Romney did it? You don't think Barack Obama did it? So you can hear in all of this, even a lot of what I'm saying, you could hear a defense and justification of our rhetoric and our actions and our choices. Because if you feel like you are up against a life or death enemy, you're going to defend and justify anything you can. As bad as it might be, there's always, but the other side is worse. And that's what led to, for me, all of the dehumanization that I again willfully engaged in against not just politicians, but I severed some ties even with people in my life who were amongst the most important and influential people in my life.
And he was fine with Russian interference. So something really, really big happened this week, and I don't know if enough people know about it, but I need to talk about it, because this is absolutely mind-blowing to me. This is a Wall Street Journal article about this guy, Jan Marsalek. And it turns out that he may be a Russian spy. He took off with $1.9 billion. And it turned out that Wirecard, this payment processor, and that's a very important part. We'll get to that in a second. This payment processor gave cards to German intelligence and ATM cards, and was used to pay off German sources for intel. And Jan Marsalek, as an executive, went through this company and gathered that data against regulations. Where'd that data go? Good question. But think about that. Your intelligence agencies, your intel sources, your informants, all of that data known. That's why payment processors are a big deal. Because, as I've been saying for 3 years now, if you look at Silicon Valley, there are some people involved with Russians and involved with payment processors that could really use a stern eye over their operations. That's all.
apparently we don't give a shit about the Russians. As far as I could tell, no one like the government is terrified of addressing anything internal that has to do with Russian interference. It's the damnedest thing. So I just don't have any confidence at all that we're going that way. I mean, part of the problem, I think is the entire intelligence community was oriented at China during the Trump administration, and there just wasn't anyone pointed that way. And I think there's just been a lot of psyops going on inside the government as well, and we're just not fucking paying attention to what is right in front of us. So I just don't know if we're going to be going after too many payment processors at this point.
I guess
that we have entire armies of fucking Americans planning on marching on Washington.
I have so many things I want to say. The FBI in 2012 put out a huge warning that Russia was trying to infiltrate America through Silicon Valley and academia, number one. Number two, we really do got to talk about Charles McGonigal as a limited hangout, because I think that's really important. And Jim, I'll let you do that one. And also what I've come to suspect is that to really root the Russians out of Silicon Valley, when so much of the seed money initially came from Silicon Valley, Russia, would be detrimental to the economy and capitalism. But there's one more thing I want to say. Another Russian billionaire stole money from Russia and used it to purchase, to buy into Silicon Valley, and Hi-Fi exposed him and his network. And that Russian billionaire had to go back to Moscow, and he's no longer with us. But I just want to say, I don't know, I guess we win some, lose some, but yeah.
No, the problem is the Silicon Valley billionaires that I'm specifically referencing are still here and still causing problems and still
part of our government.
Nazis.
Yeah.
It's still part of our government. They are building institutions of higher learning to indoctrinate more generations of fascists. And we're just sitting around like, no, that's cool. Go ahead.
So we're not sitting around saying that's cool. And I've started to refer to Peter Thiel's, the people that Peter Thiel bought into government, as his replicants. And I really like that, because when you hear J.D. Vance talk, or you hear Blake Masters talk, or you hear, what's the guy, I want to say Missouri, Hawley. Yeah, him too. All of them.
Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley. If you refer to them as replicants, it's kind of clear what they are. What they are basically programmed to spout the fascist, dialect that Peter Thiel has programmed.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
About time, man. That was like 15 minutes.
Anyway, limited hangout, Charles McGonigal, Jim.
We should also not mention Elon Musk, who is, blatantly a Russian asset at this point.
What else could he be?
Yeah.
What else could he be?
I can't really tell what tail is wagging what dog. What do you want me to talk about? McGonigal?
McGonigal and the limited hangout.
I was very underwhelmed that Charles McGonigal, got 4 years for working for the Russians, because they didn't talk about how he may have impacted our election, which we're still dealing with now. So
we talked with Jack Bryan about Iran Contra being a limited hangout.
Yeah.
That is a cop to, a bunch of stuff that was really bad for the CIA, but, not like fatal.
Yeah.
Right. And so they publicize that stuff. And in the meantime, over here in the quiet, they're talking about, we were trying to overthrow this government. We were running drugs through the fucking White House. And we were, like this crazy fucking shit that they didn't want out there. So they, they made a big noise about, the stuff, smaller stuff, so that they could at least say, oh, we're cleaning house, guys. And it just seems to me the same thing with Charles McGonigal, who was the counterintelligence chief at the New York FBI during the 2016 election. And the New York FBI is the office that convinced Comey, along with Rudy Giuliani and the NYPD, by the way, convinced Comey to reopen the email investigation. That was, according to the newspaper, from inside FBI sources, was the reason that Comey opened it back up. It seems insanely clear that person was Charles McGonigal. We know that he was up to all kinds of shit, and you can watch his videos and you can see what he's doing. But nonetheless, Charles McGonigal got wrapped up for 4 years, was his sentence, right. For doing some dirty dealing with that Tarabaska dude, right?
Dude, my God.
As opposed to literally trying to and succeeding, in handing the government to a Russian puppet, right? Yeah. So what is the limited hangout? Well, good, we got him. Boy, he was a dirty one in there. Good thing we got him before he did any damage, right?
Oh my God!
So let's put him in the clinic. We'll put him in the clinic for a couple of years, and then in the meantime, we'll just forget about the whole literally overthrowing the government for a foreign power.
Thank you. Okay, that is so. I just realized how much that reminds me of Paul Manafort's situation. Paul Manafort was taking tens of millions of dollars from Ukraine to install a Putin puppet over there. And then he comes, back stateside and does the same deal pro bono here in America. And then he gets like, a little slap on the wrist sentence and does a little federal time, coming out looking like $1 million to go ahead, continue whatever nefarious shit he's up to. And it's like, that to me needs reexamination. And yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, he was hanging out with Roger Stone last week.
Oh, yeah. See, that's just great. The dictator lobbyists.
But these are the guys, yes, these are the guys who've been doing that shit since, right? Like they're famous for being consulted to dictators, right? Yeah. It seems to me like if you do a bunch of crimes with them, then you get in trouble for that. Like, shouldn't there be a rule or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess.
Torture is lobby, man.
Together, and then you get out of prison, do you go like hang out with your murder buddy? Like,
even the guy who
very ballsy and like they don't give a shit.
Yes, exactly. The guy who stalked Fred Gutenberg, one of those radicalized InfoWars people. Even when he gets out of federal prison for all the online terrorism he directed at Fred Gutenberg, he's not going to be allowed to go near any of those sites that he was on for 3 years. He's going to be monitored. And we can't do the same thing with Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, who have been running what is known colloquially as the torturer's lobby for decades. Like, I don't know. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect. And one more thing I want to say that relates to something Hi-Fi mentioned earlier is that among the things that Bill Barr did was he took away resources focused on Russia and Russian spies and put it toward the crack cocaine war domestically. So Bill Barr was the guy who removed people whose job it is to focus on where the Russian infiltration may be coming from in America, to focus on domestic drug wars. And so once again, Bill Barr, who's also out there trying to do some reputation washing. I mean, what did we learn from Lawyers, Guns, and Money, Jack and John? And John? We learned Jack and John and John. It was all Jack and John. We learned it's the same people involved in Iran-Contra doing the same shit. Yeah.
You know, I was hanging out with a friend of the show the other night in a Twitter space, and we put some things together that are very interesting parallels, because in both Ohio and Florida, the Republican Party has captured medical marijuana, gambling, and power generation.
Wow.
And it seems like those scandals are, I mean, they're running the same criminal playbook.
Yeah.
It should be obvious to people.
So I cannot wait for our friends to see the very last clip that we have in store for them from Rich tonight, because I think it's a very important statement that he makes. But we do know that if Dana Rohrabacher is out there promoting medical marijuana, then he's being funded by the Russians and they'll use it for money laundering. I have not done that investigation thoroughly, but it's just my spidey sense, because he's been Russia's favorite Politico for so long, and he's done so much incredible damage. So why would he suddenly become a choir boy and just, do something that doesn't benefit the Russians? Not going to happen. He's what would have been called a made man. So Hi-Fi, I would love another clip.
That binary black and white thinking, what it does is it creates trauma. And I'm going to use the word trauma as someone who, again, is not trained and credentialed whatsoever. Because the right wing, there's three words that I use to describe the right wing mythologies that I succumb to: trauma, desperation, and panic. And I use those words to emphasize that I think the general public underestimates just how easy it is to fall prey to so many right-wing mythologies.
Damn.
I'm watching it now too. Are you seeing it the same way I'm seeing it? Because I'm seeing the immigrant thing being exacerbated, and like all these independent journalists are finding immigrants in airports, and they're playing the fear button, the racism button, the anti-Semitism. They're pushing all the buttons, man, and it should be obvious to people by now exactly what they're doing.
Okay. It should. Let me tell you, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to sort of get this message to people. But I tracked down and read a Russian state propaganda paper from St. Petersburg University. The co-author of this is the Lieutenant General of the FSB, which is their CIA, which runs psyops on foreign countries. And the name of this particular paper is "Russian Family as the Basis for Domestic Statehood."
Wow.
And you might think, oh, okay, so he's taking a right turn, big shock. No, this thing is eliminationist, racist, anti-Semitic, genocidal, misogynistic to the point of medieval.
Wow.
And talking about how there are humans and inhumans in the world, and the inhumans happen to be Jews, supporters of democracy, liberals, and the gays, you might be shocked to learn. Also, Russia, and this is crazy, is suffering from a great replacement of migrants. Literally, white Russians are being replaced by migrants. It also brings back the concept of telegony. So, hold on your hats. Telegony is the false idea that all the when a dude ejaculates, that he's actually the father of all the subsequent kids. That his DNA gets mixed up with the woman, and so if she is not a virgin when she's married, she's worthless to you because she's actually just that other guy's kid. And the biggest problem with Russia, and the reason why there aren't so many white Russians anymore, is because of all the raping that the migrants do.
Wow.
And it's not just that they don't just impregnate them, it's because of this telegony thing, right? Because just the first time somebody, comes in contact, they're the dad now. That's again, in a paper by 4 equivalent of Russian PhD, the vice director of the FSB, and like the head of Gorky Institute, which is their big medical institute in Russia. The authors of this absolutely bonkers David Icke level propaganda that is just purely aimed at genocide. And I will lay my Finally, the thing with the humans and the inhumans is that the inhumans, the Jews and the liberals and all of that, are actually reptilians. That that is alien DNA that has infiltrated into society, and so if you have sex with a Jew or a girl or something like that, you're going to get the alien DNA, and everybody will be ruined, and the women will be sullied, and white Russia will be doomed forever. This is a 30-page scientific paper by the Russian, right? And it gets crazier. This is the shit that they're teaching people in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that would be bad enough, right? But what I'm seeing is those things being echoed here by mainstream. Tucker Carlson the other night did a UFO thing about aliens and about wait a second, there's a very, very dark secrets here. It's not really about extraterrestrials. It's about aliens on Earth, and it's just going straight down that exact same reptilians rabbit hole. Watch him do it. He's just literally taking Kremlin, like the hardest core Kremlin propaganda, as his guide stone to bring to audience on Elmo's Magical X.
So many things. One is that much of what you were saying, Ruth talks about in Strong Men, and Jason Stanley talks about in How Fascism Works. Many of these are age-old tropes, 100-year-old tropes, the whole migrant, the whole othering, the fact that conspiracy theories have to be sold to make the public start to not be sure what's real and what's not. And what is horrifying is that you can see that they are building on their greatest hits and the same things that were traumatizing people a few years ago in QAnon that led people like Ashley Babbitt to show up at the Capitol on January 6th. They're doubling, it sounds to me, Jim, like they're doubling and tripling down on some of those narratives to further exploit and to hack people's brains and when you talk about great replacement theory, it's like, you know, I'll never forget the day that you were just like, oh my God, they're saying the quiet part out loud now. They're not trying to cloak this shit anymore. They're actually going in and saying it. Now, when we talk about the Overton window, now it's a regular occurrence. It's happening in the UK. And Tucker Carlson, again, for Betty Dangerous, he was like the number 12th in the Monster series. That, for that person to still have a platform to further harm and poison the minds of people and to lie, which, you know, as was written by a judge in one of Trump's cases, you know, a lie is a lie. Just like fucking Rudy Giuliani said, you know, truth isn't truth. No, man, a lie is a lie, and lies hurt people. And we've talked about it on the show. If you can't yell fire in a crowded theater because you're going to hurt people, then how can you lie to millions of people nightly and hack their brains? So we are at war internally in America, weakening us globally, allowing somebody to come down an escalator and say, only I can fix it. Hi-Fi, you were so right. We need people's brains to stop being hacked. And what Jim just described is the template that's being duplicated throughout, you know, democratic countries right now.
Well, the argument goes something like this. You can't stop these people because freedom of speech, right? Okay, fine, whatever. You can't stop
We don't have free speech if you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Hold on, Heidi, hold on. But the powers that be, the institutions and individuals that are meant to protect us from cognitive warfare, right? The NATOs, the military, the Department of Defense, the president, whoever, even those people could just come out and say, look, this is what's happening. This is what these people are doing. This is how they're doing it. Have a fucking special on TV, make everybody watch it, you know, put it in all the media, just boom.
What about starting with
the
text
president
alerts?
has the bully pulpit. He has the fucking bully pulpit, and he's not using it. He's using it to talk about the economy. Meanwhile, you know, Aunt Jenna is thinking about fucking, is the neighbor an alien? Am I going to have to shoot them?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
And just so you understand, these again, we talk about how I believe the GOP would be extinct if it weren't for culture wars. We talk about this type of radicalization that's going on. And I heard from our friend Alex Alvarova this morning, who grew up in Czechoslovakia and Czech Republic. She's just mortified because there was a shooting in her country from somebody who was radicalized, a mass shooting for somebody who was radicalized on Telegram. So this kind of stuff, the whole world is hurting from it. And let's go back to healing. Let's hear the next clip from Rich. It's the long one, and then I want to make sure we end on the two short ones if you have them.
I mentioned before I didn't think the election was ever stolen. But 6 months after the insurrection, I was still in this position of, well, it wasn't good, but what's the big deal? We keep hyping this up. Let's just move on from it. It was a bad day. Let's get over it. But something, as that internal alarm went off, I decided to delve a little deep into some of the forces and groups who contributed to what happened that day. Whether you want to call it an insurrection or a riot, it's a semantic difference. It was a riot. It was an attempt. It was a coup d'etat is what it was. So I started to dig deep, and I said, I knew these groups like QAnon and the Proud Boys, and I said, yeah, but these guys are just hobbyist groups. They're just people sitting around. They got all the time in the world. The pandemic, everyone's on the internet 24 hours a day. these guys are not, they're just a, you know, they're like a gamer group just hanging out and exchanging messages online about whatever conspiracy they're into. I discovered that actually wasn't the case. And I came to realize that all these groups like QAnon and the Proud Boys and the Three Percenters and the Oath Keepers were not hobbyists. They were well coordinated. They were, in some parts, well funded. And I think maybe worst of all, they had the blessing of the most powerful person in the world. When I realized that as well, when I got over that ignorance that I was highly, highly ignorant about those forces and groups that led to the insurrection, I thought, I cannot believe how wrong I was. So I had on one hand, Ron DeSantis, who as an extension of the right wing in the GOP, made acceptable avoidable deaths and suffering. And then the other side of this, which was Trump and MAGA and the Republican Party apparatus and the right wing, who said that it was okay. They defended and justified politically motivated violence in a coup d'etat against we the people, against our government, our democracy, and our Constitution. And this next point is one I bring up a lot because I think it's it's a detail that's a little bit overlooked. The rioters were 40 feet away from Mike Pence. If they had gotten a hold of him, he would have been murdered or rendered incapacitated. And if that had happened, we have no constitutional backup plan on how to count and finally and certify those votes that day. We would have had nothing. We would not have known what to do. For the first time in American history, the Constitution would have been suspended. 40 feet away. So we've got one line of demarcation, acceptable deaths and suffering. The other line of demarcation that the January 6th insurrection was legitimate political discourse, is what the Republican Party called it. When I came to those two lines of demarcation, guys, I did not cross them. I had to make a decision. Do I cross these lines and by crossing those lines, accept everything that has made me doubt my support, or do I not cross them? And I decided not to cross them.
That is the main thing that you know I keep hearing is there's just a line that some people get to that they won't cross. Yeah. Most people, even in these authoritarian cults, don't commit crimes. And I have said many, many times, like, I don't give a shit if you're in a cult. I understand all the mechanisms. I understand you were trapped, but you have to be responsible for you committing crimes. Yeah. So whatever got you to that situation, right, you have to be responsible for that. Ashley Babbitt's death was tragic, but absolutely fucking justified. Yeah. And what I'm unfortunately seeing a lot of increasingly now is, we were talking about the quiet part, open calls for organized violence. Yeah. Or for getting groups of people together to accomplish destructive goals. Peters was on Alex Jones the other day to literally propose a Holocaust in the United States, or minimally a pogrom. Yeah. He said, we need 100 to 200 million people to get rid of the Zionist infiltration in the United States. Jesus Christ. For an hour, Alex Jones and Stu Peters went back and forth about the Jewish question, meaning, what are we going to do about all these Jews? And Alex Jones sort of tut-tutted here and there, but he was like, I had Kanye on, and the first hour was like, I love Hitler, and then the rest of it was like, we did it for 3 more hours, so I can't really take responsibility for this. But in the meantime, he's literally laying out the reasons, the conditions, and the actions for people to take in order to eliminate Jewish people from America. That was on relatively mainstream. And remember, Elon Musk personally especially explicitly invited
back. Yeah.
him back to the platform
Yeah.
so that he could do that.
Yeah.
Exactly, so that he could do exactly what he did. So for me, the what Rich is saying about January 6th, I don't know what it's going to fucking take, but all that stuff that they were doing, you know, a few weeks before January 6th, they're doing now.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
There isn't one place in one, you know, location yet, but I'm listening all day long to these people talking about this, especially now with this Colorado thing.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and good. The 14th Amendment, by the way, and I'll shut up in a second. 14th Amendment. People should understand the reason why Donald Trump is not allowed to be back, because after the Civil War, we were like, yo, we probably shouldn't let any of those Confederates back in the fucking government, should we? That'd probably not be a great idea. So let's say any of you motherfuckers that tried to overthrow the government of the United States, you don't get to do it again from the inside. You just don't get to. And that is literally, like, this is the perfect reason that the 14th Amendment exists. And they want to take this back to before that because they don't like that shit.
So I just want to say, Jim, you wrote something this week, Operation Z, Russo-American Neo-Nazis, ISIS. If you guys haven't read it, it's at his Mind War Substack, Jim Stewartson's Substack. It is so important that you opened with how you opened, where you framed the event that just occurred in California, led by Flynn and Dundas and company, that you imagined if this event where they were selling signed AR, you know, automatic weapons, if it actually had been 2,000 Muslims who were gathered, talking that violent rhetoric, selling weapons, encouraging people to commit acts of violence, that would have been shut down. So why does General Flynn's you know, Elmer Gantry, Carney revival, why are they allowed to do that? All you had to do was change the color of their skin to make it very clear that that would not be allowed at all, that type of violence. And yet when it's coming from a retired Putinist, not he's a Putinist, a retired general is a Putinist, it's really
yeah.
I don't know what
tribal.
to say. I don't know what
it's
to say.
tribal, isn't it? Think about it for a second. It's tribal. Like, we take ISIS, we add a bunch of lightener, make them white. We change the flavor to Christian, not Muslim. No, Christian.
I see where you're going.
Christian is the predominant flavor in America. And look, suddenly this religious extremism is palatable to the American public. And God forbid someone stand up to it because, well, you're attacking Christians. No, I'm not attacking Christians. I'm attacking fundamentalist extremists who are prone to fucking violence.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be that difficult to explain.
That's right.
ISIS is an important word here. I just want to say they did a thing in that thing that fucked me up, and I've watched everything.
Right.
Like, so one of the things that ISIS does is shows you beheading videos and shows you images of the infidel committing the worst kinds of possible violence. So these motherfuckers went and got Hamas video, unedited, completely unedited, straight up like gore, rape, everything, and just like in the middle of this woman's speech, she was just like, boop, turn it on, and I was sitting there like, Jesus fucking Christ, like just they were tools and shit. Like it was.
You could feel,
and that
feel the dissociation hitting.
Yes, I could feel myself wanting to leave my body because I don't want to watch this shit. And that is literally the point. And so what happens is after the audience sees that and just has this horrific like wave of pain and nausea, the solution comes in, and Mike Flynn trumps on stage, and he's like, the globalists are gonna, rape your kids, and it transfers the disgust and the hate and the pain that you felt, and allows Mike Flynn to take credit for being the solution to it. That is how you create cult leaders. That is how you create death cults. That is how you, as Mike Flynn wrote in his book, get people to kill people.
And that our Justice Department is just allowing it, that our military's like, okay, that it's only Jim who's actually reporting on it, that it seems to be ignored. But okay, not only you, Jim. I guess that's where I find it. But you and your allies, is this being reported on CNN? Is it being reported on Fox, MSNBC? Is it reported on like a PBS?
Town halls with Ron DeSantis.
Okay, so my point being that I would not know this is happening if Jim was not going into the suck and telling us what we need to know. Also, when Jim comes back, actually, I want to ask him. There he is, Jim. Jim, I want to ask you.
It was the internet.
You see, Trump has to be in front of the camera 24/7. It's like without and saying things like vermin and increasing the fascist rhetoric and getting the attention that he so desperately needs to try to stay relevant. It seems to me, by your coverage of Mike Flynn, that he too has some sort of air of desperation because he's continually 24/7 out there doing this Putinist rhetoric. And I know you've said in the past that this is very existential for him, but what is going on that he relentlessly is out on these, garbage pods or whatever, spewing this rhetoric?
Yeah, and look, he's at war with the United States. He's at war, and he says it over and over and over again. That one day we'll believe him, and not metaphorically. Yeah. Not metaphorically. Listen, he's a general, and he was a well-regarded strategist, and he's taken over lots of countries and shit. He knows what he's doing, and so he's just doing his job. He took that job in 2013, and he is a general. He is just a general for the wrong team. As a purely objective matter, if you were to look at it just as a sort of military campaign, I mean, holy shit, he's accomplished a lot. A lot,
I know. I know.
He's not smart. He is not a dumb man.
No, of course not.
But he is. But he's not insane at all. He knows,
of course,
every single last thing he's doing. And so, why is he doing it? Because that's his job, and he knows he's either going to win and really win for the big boss, not for Donald Trump, who he hates, by the way, not for Donald Trump, but for Putin, and to get revenge on all the people he hates.
So let me ask you something, because in the last week, according to your reporting, he is now exposing himself as being a Putinist. He's now exposing himself as he's saying Putin's name, praising him. And so I feel like that is an escalation of this. And any thoughts there?
What he said was, Yeah, I think I know what you mean. And what he said was that you know, there's some people are fighting the globalists, like Orban, like Trump, and like Vladimir Putin. Um, just he put Trump like in between Orban and Putin, and he said, sort of matter of factly, "Oh, by the way, Putin is trying to collapse the United States of America." All in one sentence. So you just parse that. It's like, okay, so I'm on Trump's side. We're on Putin's side. Putin's trying to collapse America. What does that mean about me? What does that mean about me? Right? It means I'm trying to collapse the United States of America. And that is what all of his people, you know, that, you know, his sort of loyalists understand. They know that's what he's doing, and they play this game with him because they understand psychological warfare. They've been given the books. He was in a Pizzagate space tonight with a woman who promoted Michael Aquino's Mind War. You know, on these Pizzagate people. I mean, they're playing with real Kremlin psychological warfare tactics, and they're being directed by somebody who knows what they're doing.
I'm, you know, on the one hand, it's absolutely horrifying. On the other hand, it is damn good that we know this stuff. Because again, I think the monsters are more scary in darkness. I'm looking for a Paul Nyland quote where he was talking about Russia's not our friend. Putin is not our friend. Putin is trying to weaken us on the world stage. He's trying to steal our democracy. He's doing exactly as predicted, you know, creating America to basically be, you know, make our own demise without firing a shot, although shots have been fired. There is a kinetic component to this. And he was referring to Tucker Carlson, who is on Russia state TV all the time as a celebrity, as a big star. And he was basically saying, you know, if Russia's on your side, you're on the wrong fucking side. That's Paul Nyland, investigative reporter from Kyiv. He also founded Lifeline Ukraine, the first suicide hotline in Ukraine after the very first invasion in 2014, when the Ukrainian soldiers had no place to go with their trauma. So now, of course, Paul is incredibly busy because of what's happened in the last few years. But it's like, what part of this do people not understand? And again, we now have an insight. Rich Logis explained to us just exactly how people are thinking inside Maga. And we have 2 more clips that I'd really like to show. We're going a little bit long, but it's going to be damn worth it. Do you have those for us, Hi-Fi?
Maybe. The interface is being weird all of a sudden. Hold on. Let's see if I can get him to play.
Use
Dag-nabbit. I'm trying.
Use your internet magic, Hi-Fi. Your internet.
Yeah, the interface is lagging badly. I'm not sure what's going on. The internet hates me this evening. My bad. Because I had a really good video I wanted to share with people too.
I have a feeling you're going to be able to pull it off.
Maybe, maybe not. But the thing he talks about in this that I find is really interesting is he talks about, and he doesn't use these words, but I think people need to think of it this way, is their information ecosphere, right?
Yes.
It's where are they getting their information from? If you're only watching Fox News, we know from Gensenko what that does to your brain.
Right.
You're only listening to Alex Jones. We know what that does to your brain. If you're attending any of Flynn's events, we know what that does to your brain. So it's a rather dangerous thing. And
there's
go ahead.
There's a computer science called garbage in, garbage out.
That's right. Right. Yeah. So what he did when perfect phrase. When he started to I was going to say when he started to have his doubts and he hit that what he said felt like a brick wall at the speed of light. He described getting out of MAGA as the hardest thing he'd ever done. It was like kicking heroin, like the way I've heard people having to kick like a hard drug. Like it was hard. And he said one of the first things he did was he poked his head out of his silo and started diversifying his news intake. So that's just incredible intel for us and for people who do this type of work. He began to diversify his news intake. And that kind of was the beginning of him getting wings and courage to become that guy who has been writing about leaving MAGA. The last clip's really important. It's only 6 seconds. You can't get it to play?
Nope, I can't get it to play.
Okay, well, that's all right. I'm just going to say that somebody who voted for Trump twice, wrote the scripts for the call centers pro bono, worked for Ron DeSantis, said, and I quote, that he believes that there's going to be a reckoning and a repudiation in 2024 of MAGA and extremism. And he said, and I quote, that the Republican Party needs to be mercy killed.
No mercy. I got no mercy left for that shit, man. Seriously. It's just not. It's just the Nazi thing now. It's literally they're just pushing it all the way down the road. You got fat Hitler out here just doing blood poisoning and all of it. Like
all
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, on that cheery note, Hi-Fi, you must have something beautiful and hopeful. This is Christmas week. I'm not wearing the silly hat for nothing. I was Santa's busiest elf today. I'm the official Christmas wrapper for, the entire hood. I just wrapped so many presents today. So what's up?
My contribution is just a red shirt.
I saw that. That's your Christmas sweater. I appreciate it.
It was just totally accidental because I don't have any clothes left. But
I was going to text you guys going, please wear Christmas sweaters. And I'm like, why would I even bother doing that? Like, why?
Also, I've just kind of had it with Christ for just, I'm going to
I understand.
I'm giving Christ a year off this year. Dude needs a fucking break.
I understand. I think Christ understands too. He's like, man, it was never supposed to be like this.
Yeah,
High-five.
I'm not mad at the normal
I know.
Jesus Christ, man. Can you get your cousin it under control over here?
High five.
I had a absolutely lovely video of some ladies singing a song that I think everyone needed to hear. And it was Try Not to Be a C-N-T. And I can't get that to play either, so you're just gonna have to go to YouTube and look it up.
Here's the thing, Hi-Fi. I'm so glad there's a reason why your internet's not working, because Hi-Fi.
I probably shouldn't play that.
Of course, you have a beautiful voice. Why don't you just sing us out a little Christmas?
I'm not
Don't sing that one.
Come on, no, of course not. Come on,
because I smoked earlier and it makes
Hi-Fi. One little line, just one little line, and then we'll go out. Just one little Christmas jingle. Come on, one little something. Just one little beautiful note.
Oh God, don't be.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Just come on.
Father Christmas, give me some money.
What about have yourself a merry little Christmas, Hi-Fi?
No, that was perfect. No, that was perfect.
All right. Hey.
And let's see if I can even get it. Yep, I can get it to turn off.
All right.
You know what? Hold on. Now that it's working again, 1 second.
Let's go out on the MAGA clip.
Nah.
Oh, I love this music. I love Christmas.
Me too, and we need it more than ever now after the terrible year we've all had.
Oh, so true, Adele.
Christmas comes but once a year, and when it comes it brings good cheer, a season of goodwill and fun. And yet while most of us feel festive, Grinch is out there just getting restive and spoil it all for everyone. Though it's too much to expect you to be nice, you'll find that life is easier with this advice. Try not to be a cunt, it's Christmas. Take a tip from Santa's elf. The rest of us are doing our best to be jolly, so don't go looking like you swallowed a bunch of holly. Don't shout at carol singers and tell them to stop. Don't buy your presents from the Oxfam shop. For fuck's sake, be merry, have another sherry, and try not to be a cunt. Try not to be a cunt. Look, there's the reindeer. I'm sleighing up to Lapland. Try not to be a cunt. C-U-N-T, cunt.